What is going on, everybody? Let's go. I know you're excited. We are back in the studio, or back in my bedroom, because that's where we stream from. But listen, guys, I hope you guys are excited. I'm excited. We got a lot to cover, and we don't have a whole hell of a lot of time. But I made a few different adjustments on the stream, just a little bit in terms of graphics. You can see there's like a tip jar if you're watching this on Shorts. It's right here. If you're on Twitch or anything like that, it's also there. What's going on, booby? I see what you did there. That's funny. Cute. All right. Give me 1 second here. I've got to adjust my chat box. There it goes. Okay, cool. All right. 1 second here. Adjust this. Let's see. Okay, that's not what I was looking for. I was trying to see why it won't, why it refreshes as soon as it goes in there. Anyways, let's go. All right, so we got a lot to cover today. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump and some of his terrible policies. There's a lot to cover, so I'm going to try to get into this as best as I can.
More about your money.
Oh, there we go. There's not, let me correct that. There's not a whole lot to cover since what happened on Wednesday. Guys, for anyone who's unaware, I was traveling when it came to when we were streaming on Wednesday. I apologize for not streaming yesterday. I was actually in the middle of traveling. I was not able to do anything at that time. But that's no big deal, because guess what? We make up for it on Saturdays. Okay, guys? So let's talk about Donald Trump. Oh, come on. Don't do that to me. Thank you. Let's talk about Donald Trump and some of his terrible news that he's been doing. He's been now going after the IRS and things of that nature. We've seen where he is talking and trying to make fake, faux peace deals that are essentially already in existence or pretty much already there. Nothing extremely meaningful. He's absolutely trying to do what he can to make up for that. But hey, guys, as you're coming in here, make sure you hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. Okay, that'll push us further in the algorithm. But let's go ahead and let's jump straight into this news. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So Donald Trump says that he has instructed our department. Actually, this needs to be moved around a little bit. I apologize. Yep, this is it. Okay. Donald Trump tweeted out saying, "I have instructed our Department of Commerce to immediately begin work on a new and highly accurate," which we should be questioned on that, right? We should be questioning why he's doing this. Our new highly accurate census based on modern day facts and figures. And notice how he put I want y'all to see this. He put a comma after and, not before and. Weird. Importantly, using the results and information gained from the presidential election of 2024, people who are in our country illegally will not be counted in the census. Here's the problem with this that Donald Trump seems to have forgotten, is that this was attempted in his first administration and it was struck down. He's not going to be able to do this again, right? Exactly, Spartacus. Accurate, right? How is this accurate? It's insane. But yeah, so he's going to go and try to do this as well. Give me 1 second. I got to pull this up on here. So that happened. And then what we also have is that we had Donald Trump getting the help of the FBI to go in and track down some of the Democrats who fled Texas to block redistricting vote. To catch everybody up who has not been paying attention to what's going on, essentially, Texas has been going full authoritarian. They are doing everything in their power to essentially go after these Texas Democrats, because without the Texas Democrats there, they are unable to hold quorum to vote on these redistricting efforts. The problem is that, again, it's a constitutionally protected right for these Texas Democrats to flee the state. It's a constitutional protection. And keep in mind, too, Ken Paxton is not a saint when it comes to all of this either. And then we saw Donald Trump going after Letitia James. This comes after, by the way, Donald Trump put in place Emil Bove to go in and he nominated his personal attorney to be the one of the judges on the Southern District of New York Circuit. And now here we see The DOJ going after Letitia James. You can see here, major breaking news. Trump's DOJ, led by Pam Bondi, has opened an investigation in New York Attorney General Letitia James for violating Trump's civil rights. This DOJ is not working on the behalf of the American population, American citizen. The DOJ and Congress, quite frankly, are working on the behalf of Donald Trump. This is not a DOJ that is looking out for you, the American citizen. This is a DOJ that's working as one of Trump's personal attorneys. Keep in mind, too, Pam Bondi also was one of Trump's personal attorneys that, if I'm not mistaken, also helped him out during his impeachment inquiries. Then we saw Scott Bessent try to do his typical thing that he always does, right? Always does. And went down this route and rabbit hole of saying, well, the tariff is actually paid for by the consumer, or paid for by the importer. Or sorry, right here. The tariff is paid by in this country by the importer. Is that right? This was an interviewer trying to do this. Just watch this. This is masterful. Absolutely masterful.
There's been some confusion. So we've got a tariff of, 50% on Brazil now, I think. And so if someone here, an importer, wants to buy Brazilian products today or tomorrow and import them, they're going to pay 50% to the Treasury. And so who writes that check?
Well, a couple of things. First, we could have substitutions. So there's very little that only comes from Brazil. It could come from Argentina. It could come from...
right, but assuming it does come from Brazil, say, or it comes from any country with a tariff, who writes the check to the Treasury?
Well, the check is written to the person who receives it at the dock in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. The check is written by the person who receives it at the dock. So
the person who receives it at the dock. Who might that be? The importer?
So tariff is paid in this country by the importer, is that right?
But the Brazilian exporter could decide that they want to keep market share. They could lower their price.
Why would they lower their price? This makes no sense, right? When it comes to tariff, there are three routes, and we've talked about this many times on this channel already. One of them is that they lay off workers. The other option is that they go in and they decrease their hours, or they will pass on those costs to the consumers, which is going to happen time and time and time again.
So that the full 50% of the tariff, say,
they can eat part of the cost. They can eat part of the tariff,
which is what we've seen.
Okay. But the check is written by the importer, right, at the dock.
Yeah, and then the.
So again, Scott Bessent, which by the way is now going to replace. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Scott Bessent is now going to be replacing IRS Commissioner Billy Long. But here's the problem with this. Billy Long was fired hours after, this is allegedly what happened, after he refused to furnish additional confidential taxpayer information on suspected undocumented immigrants to the Department of Homeland Security. Let's just put this into perspective here. Donald Trump's going after our undocumented immigrant population. Here's the problem with this, okay? With Donald Trump trying to do this, it's going to put a chilling effect on our economy. He is bragging about all the tariffs that he's bringing in to the United States for the tax revenue. But the thing that people don't understand is that undocumented migrants do pay into the tax system. The reason these undocumented migrants pay into the tax system is because they hope that it would help with their immigration case. So when it is found out that now they're trying to get this information from the IRS, what do you think that's going to do? I encourage you, as y'all viewers who are watching this, critically think through this. It's going to create a chilling effect. Migrants are no longer going to pay taxes, voluntarily pay taxes, by the way. They're not mandated to pay these taxes. They do it out of the goodness of their heart to help with their immigration case. They are no longer going to pay their taxes because they don't want to be found. They don't want to be caught up in these ICE rates. Right? And so keep in mind, too, when we deal with all of this, we also have Donald Trump going after workplaces. Well, what does that do? That causes workers to no longer show up to work. Thus, them having to find alternatives, possibly lay them off. It's going to be potentially more expensive. These are just facts. Again, facts that Donald Trump, quite frankly, does not like. Nick Bowling, illegal aliens, substandard undocumented migrants, only small portion of them pay taxes. Not totally correct. Again, you can say illegal aliens if that is how you so choose. I will proceed to humanize them, unlike most of MAGA. They are undocumented migrants. That is how I will be treating them. If your fifis don't like it, well, guess what? I don't care. Okay, so that happened with that. And then we had Americans are now set to pay more for cars, coffee, and clothing as average U.S. tariff rate jumps to a high not seen since, guess what? The Great Depression. See, there's a thing people forget about is we're seeing this play out with something that has already played out previously. It's called Smoot Hawley, right? We became an isolationist country. I believe this was after World War I. We decided to raise tariffs because we thought it'd be a great idea. Increase the tariff revenue. See, history repeats itself, and we're seeing it play out in real time. Donald Trump is putting on tariff rates and on countries like Japan, India, the EU, the UK, you name it. Donald Trump has continued to apply these tariffs. The problem with this is that, for example, we might have a trade deal with Japan, which is a terrible, non-binding trade deal. And the problem with this is that we may have had a lower tariff rate previously, but Donald Trump increased that rate significantly, 30 or 40%, to apply pressure to Japan to come to the agreement, to the conversation, the deal table. And guess what? He ended up lowering the tariffs down to 15%. And he said, this is a great deal. But the problem is that we are still significantly further than where we were initially. Keep in mind, too, that there's also a lot of companies that have built up pre-tariff inventory stocks. So now as that pre-tariff inventory starts to decline, they now have to purchase the new inventory under the new tariff rates. Why do you hate our republic and the Bill of Rights? Well, you see, I don't hate the republic and the Bill of Rights. I care for our country. I'm a very patriotic Democrat. But you see, Republicans are not patriotic. In fact, they've become more authoritarian every day. They're cheering on the arrest of the Democrats in Texas. They are using the FBI to hunt down these Democrats. There was a time where, again, and this is tired and old to say so, but what's going on, Beverly? It's exhausting to say this, but imagine if just Kamala Harris or Joe Biden were to have done a fraction of what they were doing, right? It'd be insane. There'd be calls. Remember, the entire time we were listening to Kamala Harris, we were told she's going to be a communist. She's going to be for big government. There was a time when I believe Republicans were not for big government. And now they love big government. They love that the military is going down our streets to pick up undocumented migrants. And in some cases, U.S. citizens. There's pictures of ICE jumping out of a Penske truck, which, by the way, the company said this is against our policy, but, you know, ICE doesn't care about that. Jumping out of the back of a Penske truck, running towards anybody with light skin. I implore you guys to think about this, right? I implore you guys, why are they not going after European migrants? When was the last time? Asian migrants. They're only seemingly going after people with a certain skin complexion. You thought stop and frisk was bad. This is well beyond that. Yo, Beverly, watching from Jamaica. Welcome in. Welcome in. MAGA supports dictatorships? Absolutely, John. Blah, blah, blah. Rugu, you saying Harris is a moron us, lemmings unite. I appreciate your comments and your engagement. The problem is with your thinking there. By the way, guys, we got 62 people in here. Please make sure you hit that like, subscribe, notification bell if you have not already. That would do us a huge solid for the algorithm. Please, 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 please. So what we're seeing is that Republicans are now becoming the thing they hated the most. They are now becoming the deep state. They are becoming now the same government that they accuse Joe Biden and Kamala Harris of becoming. And now we have them trying to rewrite history. By the way, they also got rid of, I believe it was section 9 and 10 or articles 9 and 10 of section 1 or something of the Constitution that got rid of like due process rights and things of that nature. They got rid of that from the congressional website. They snuck that in there, but now it's back. But they're trying to rewrite history. They're absolutely trying to rewrite history. Okay. So we see here, Tim Scott says, Democrats don't know we are $37 trillion in debt, and Donald Trump has brought sanity back to nation's finances. Trump just added $5 trillion to the deficit, though. If you go and look at how much it cost, the big, beautiful bill to get that passed, it cost the taxpayer, raised the deficit by $4 trillion after you accrue for interest and things of that nature. Donald Trump during his first administration spent $8 trillion compared to Joe Biden's $4 trillion. This is from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget. You can also go and look at what they said that Kamala Harris's economic plans would cost versus Donald Trump's. Donald Trump's on the medium end would end up costing the increase the deficit by $7 trillion. We're already halfway there, and we're barely 8 months in this administration. Only 8 months into this administration, and we're already halfway there. Mind you, the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget also said on the high end, Donald Trump could increase the deficit by upwards of $15 trillion. It's insane. It's insanity. And we'll get to this one here in a second. I'm going to read the chat a little bit because it's popping off. Can we just all agree that regardless of who's in charge, society needs to be rebooted? Why does what specifically does society need to be rebooted by? If you're saying, I've been saying this, that MAGA, their ideology is parasitic. It takes a hold of the people that it indoctrinates. And then MAGA is unable to really critically think for themselves. It now becomes the parasite that thinks for them. The Putinization of America. Okay, I see JMP does not want to really engage, so I'm going to go ahead and put you in timeout for a little bit, buddy. When you come back, you can. All right. Trump is discussing anyone supports him. Support. Yeah. No, I agree with you, Deanna. And this is the problem I have, right? Is that when we look at what happened with Donald Trump, with this whole Epstein thing, again, I hate to say this, guys, but just imagine for a second, just a fraction of a second, if even a fraction of what Donald Trump has done was done by Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, or Obama, or even Hillary. Name a Democrat, right? Just think for a second. They'd be calling for immediate impeachments, but they're not anymore because they have so bought into this cult ideology. It's insane. Maybe we should let women run the nation. Men sure aren't doing anything better anything to make America better. You know, Aaron, it's funny you say that too, because here's the thing about that, right? Women running the country is not technically something that I am opposed to. In fact, I support it. I voted for Kamala Harris, and I think, and called me a little bit short-sighted, and a lot of people, I'm going to get people riled up in chat, and that's totally okay. I'm cool with it. Please get riled up. I think Kamala Harris has an actual decent shot in running in 2028. I think she'd be a good candidate. Now, a lot of people that are on the left may disagree with me. That's my hot take. Okay, that's my hot take. But I think if you look at recent Democratic polling, she does fairly well. And if you look at how she did against Donald Trump in 2024, I think she did uniquely well. My second choice behind that would be Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom would be really good, or Pete Buttigieg. They're kind of tied in my book. And I know a lot of people right now are probably a little less inclined to go for those people. If you're on the far left, you probably want somebody who's a little bit more progressive, like an AOC. And I totally get that. I would love to see an AOC and I've thrown this out there. I think having an AOC as a vice president pick is actually a really good idea. Having AOC or Jasmine Crockett as a vice president pick, that was a Southern accent that came out. A vice president pick would be really great because what they can do is make the meaningful change in Congress where it's needed. So we have that kind of progressive-ish vice president who can go in there and pass those legislative policies. And then we have a more moderate president, being, again, Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, or even a Kamala Harris. She may be a better candidate, but I'll never vote for a woman ever again. Why not? Let's see. They shouldn't have let Biden try to rerun. The whole trying to switch to Kamala halfway through was not the play. I completely agree with you, hey. I completely agree with you. I think Biden running for as long as he did more detriment to the Democratic Party than it did help. And I think this is another reason, one of the biggest issues I see with the Democratic Party is that we don't rally behind a candidate so much so that like the right does, right? The right has always had their candidate for the past, almost, it will be 12 years, right? They've had the same candidate time and time again. It was Donald Trump. There was no question about it. He was going to be that candidate. But right now, the Democrats don't really have that, right? The Democrats don't have that one candidate. We argue and we infight consistently. And that's a problem. So I think we needed a lot more time to rally around that. I think Gavin Newsom is building up his resume quite well. I think Pete Buttigieg is doing pretty good as well. I definitely agree with you, Spartacus. She had a lot of momentum and was doing really well. I think there was a little bit where she started to decline towards the end in terms of polling, but she did pretty well, all things considered, for as short as she did. I'd rather have an open border as opposed to, Deanna, I'm totally with you on a lot of your comments. Just let's tone down on the language, please. I'm totally with you, but I don't want to, and get certain words and things in chat. Let's just tone it down on some of the languages, please. I'm with you though. Definitely what we've had two of the best candidates ever, Hillary and Kamala. What do we end up with? Trump, the worst president ever. Well, and I get that. Arian, I get that, right? But at the end of the day, there is a time we definitely, I think, are overdue for a female president. I think we will see it in my lifetime. The question is when, and that's why I'm going to vote. I'm supporting Kamala right now. She's leading the polls. I think she will do really well. Those who are kind of online tend to sit there and look at other candidates, and that's totally okay. Have you seen all the miles of tents in California? What tents? Are you talking about? Oh, you're talking about the homeless? Yeah, let's not talk about the homeless when we look at all of the Republican states too. What have they done for homelessness? Oh yeah, that's right. They've kicked them out of the camps, and Donald Trump is trying to institutionalize all of the homeless people. Yeah, that's a real bill, by the way. Go look at Donald Trump. I don't want to hear anything about homelessness because of the way that Donald Trump is treating the homelessness. Donald Trump wants to institutionalize the homeless. Literally pick them up off the streets, put them in the back of a cop car, and send them down to a mental institution. Yeah, that's what he wants to do. Turn the map red, MAGA, and they'll still do the same crazy crap. Yeah. All right. So then we have them also doing faux outrage stunts like this with Sydney Sweeney saying liberal trigger, another Sydney Sweeney ad has just dropped. Like, this is something that we're triggered. Like, okay, this is supposed to trigger me. What? They're making up things left and right. You know what I'm saying? They don't really have much of anything there. All right. Then we have this, and we'll get to this video. Trump to the Azerbaijani president, Aliyev. Everyone wants me to run again in 2028. I genuinely, when it comes to this question of whether or not Donald Trump is going to run in 2028, I'm not going to lie to you. I think there is a 50-50 chance that the Republicans do something crazy to potentially try, at the very least, to pass an amendment, which would fall on its face, or pull some kind of crazy stunt to try to actually allow Donald Trump to run in 2028. Mind you, he'll be about 82 years old. He will be the oldest president we have ever had. So I don't want to hear about them complaining about Joe Biden's age and his cognitive decline. Donald Trump is old. His cognitive decline is showing every day as he talks and he speaks. And then we have things like this that are pretty crazy. This is the new rose garden, quote unquote. I don't see very many roses, quite frankly, at all. I see a white slab with a bunch of questionable umbrellas. But it turns out, if you go and look at Mar-a-Lago, these umbrellas are all over Mar-a-Lago. Look at this. If you're not convinced by that, you can take a look at this. Look at this pattern. And now let's go back and look at this. It's the exact same umbrellas that are at Mar-a-Lago. He's trying to turn the White House into Mar-a-Lago. You know, and I've heard people throw this around, and I'm not particularly inclined to this just quite yet, where they have said that Donald Trump, who is building this ballroom, who's building this and everything else, is doing this because he's not going to leave. When you do things like this, it makes it hard to kind of rebut those accusations. I got you, Way. Trump is the chosen one. I don't disagree that I think, I don't doubt that some of the MAGA believe that the way they talk about him. He's also done this to the Oval Office. He has put gold plating around in this cherub up here. Yeah, he did that. That was pretty crazy. So we've had that going on. And then we're now going to watch a little bit of some remarks. I got to try to parse through this real quick. So give me just a second. All right. So Donald Trump obviously did not like the stats that he was given. So he decided to bring in a economist. I believe it was the first, his first administration or something along those lines. Anyways, he tried to bring them in and revise the numbers. He wants to provide the accurate numbers. The ironic thing about this is that he's using the Bureau of Labor Statistics to justify this. And you can see it. You can't really see it on the screen because it's real small for you guys. But at the bottom of this one graph that he's got pulled up already, it quite literally says Bureau of Labor Statistics, where they're getting these numbers from. But we'll go through and watch this a little bit.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. We're going to have just a quick session with Steve Moore. Everybody knows Steve Moore with the Heritage Foundation, highly respected, one of the most highly respected.
The Heritage Foundation, by the way, which is a very, very, very conservative think tank. Also, if I'm not mistaken, Stephen Moore also authored part of Project 2025, FYI. In this first chart that he's showing, it says BLS overestimates Biden jobs by nearly 1.5 million. Keep in mind, there is no methodology to how they came up with this. Okay. And what they're referencing is showing the 855,000 jobs. Again, this was in 1 year, one of the revisions over a year. They don't talk about the fact prior to Biden. I have a big issue with this is they're talking about the overestimation by Biden, but by the same logic, what about the overestimation by Donald Trump? Donald Trump had a massive revision downward, over 200,000 jobs. For anyone who is unaware, and we'll catch you up to what's going on, Donald Trump got a disastrous job report that showed his revisions went downward by, I think, like 200,000. So some of the jobs for May and June showed that it was actually only like a 19,000 increase in jobs and a 17,000 increase in jobs for June. And in July, he had only gained 70,000 jobs. Of those 70,000 jobs, a majority of them were in healthcare and government. And we saw a decline in jobs for manufacturing. But how these estimates work is there's three estimates. Those estimates are given based upon the answers and the reports they get back from these businesses. So there's typically an initial report that comes out, a second estimate that comes out, and a third estimate that comes out. This is the same thing, by the way, that comes with GDP estimates. So on the second quarter GDP results, we see an initial estimate, and then we see the revised estimate, which is the second one, and the third one, and then a final one. So everything we see early on when we get it right after that month, those are estimates. That's how it works. Because why? They send out those reports. They want those reports to come back from these businesses, and businesses are often slow to provide government the documents they need. So now we get here. Donald Trump doesn't like that. And so he fires the commissioner for the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Fires that commissioner and says, I don't like those facts. I'm going to fire her. And now we're here where he's bringing in Stephen Moore, who's from the Heritage Foundation and a co-author of Project 2025 to provide these nice, lovely charts that are surely not biased in any direction or another, right? Hey, by the way, guys, we got 143 of you guys. Please make sure you hit that like, subscribe, notification bell if you have not already. If you feel so inclined to provide a super chat or any kind of a donation, feel free to do so as well. We would definitely be appreciative of it. We are trying to get this stream going and running. All right, let's go.
Respected economists and people that watch your money and know more about your money and your life than probably anybody I can think of. And I want to thank Steve for being here. I saw this today. They came out. What he puts out gets a lot of coverage, and I saw some of them, and then he had a couple of others. And I'd like to ask Steve maybe to discuss a few of these numbers that were just released. I mean, literally just released. And then we're going over and we're going to do Purple Heart. We have some incredible, brave people that I look forward to. So we're going to do that right after this. Steve, could you say a few words about the various charts?
Thank you, Mr. President. So I called the president because I had some very good news from some new data that we've been able to put together. That
Mind you, this is the same administration that is boasting about transparency, but we're not seeing the methodology to which they came up with these numbers, by the way.
no one has ever seen before, and I'll just very quickly go through these. So I was telling the president that he did the right thing in calling for a new head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, because this shows that over the last 2 years of the Biden administration, the BLS overestimated jobs.
Notice they're going over the last 2 years. Why not go through and look at Donald Trump's estimates? Convenient.
Job creation by 1.5 million jobs. That's a, Mr. President, that's a gigantic.
Thank you, Amanda. I appreciate the lovely comment. Appreciate that. At least he didn't use a Sharpie this time. 100% Spartacus. Max said he should have just changed the original chart with a Sharpie. Yeah, I'm surprised he didn't have a Sharpie on standby, right? Exactly, Aaron. New data he pulled out of his butt.
Error. And I don't know if she's, I'm not.
It might not have been an error, that's the bad part. If it was an error, it would be one thing. I don't think it's an error. I think they did it purposely.
Whether that, you may well be right, but even if it wasn't purposefully, it's incompetent.
See, and he's like, you may well be right, because he knows. And this is the problem, right? Is that it's crazy to me to see all of these MAGA administration officials who know better the simple economic answers, but they never want to tell Donald Trump he's wrong. That's the crazy thing about it is that all of these people in this administration are power-hungry individuals who do not care about truth. They don't care about facts. They don't care about transparency. They care about power. Power.
Right. Okay. So 1.5 million jobs overestimated. We have access to the some data that no one else does on what has happened month by month with median household income. This is based on unpublished Census Bureau data. It will be released sometime in the next 6 months, but we get an advanced look at it. And so I was telling the president in his first 5 months in office, starting in January through the end of June, the average median household income adjusted for inflation for the average family in America is already up $1,174. That's a huge,
an incredible number.
Yeah.
Just came out.
Just came out. So,
and this is saying monthly estimates of net change in real median household income. And what you see here, it's really interesting what he's doing. This is from January of 2025 to June of 2025. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick for you guys. Real median household income. I want you guys to see this. It has gone up a little bit, admittedly, of course, but there's something that they don't really quite show you. Let me get this pulled up here. Is that first of all, even the St. Louis, the Fred has come out and shown. Let me try to pull this up here. Let me pull this up. You can look at this. It goes back to 2023. So there was a bit of a decline in real median household income, and then it went up in 2023. I don't know if we have the full 2024 data yet. So even what they're working off of with this is purely an estimate, which is why it says monthly estimates.
oh, that's a giant game.
And if I would have said this, nobody would have believed it. There's
Access the data they make up. Yeah, exactly, Lay. Trump was at it's funny.
your number. We're doing well.
So the next one compares, we finally have the 2024 data on what happened with real family income in the United States. And so
Keep in mind, all of this stuff that they're coming up with, it says monthly estimates because I cannot find 2024 real household income. Real household income. There's nothing for 2024, and I don't know when they're going to come out with it, but I've not seen anything for 2024. If someone has it, by all means, please bring it. But it looks like in 2024, the real median household income in the U.S. was estimated to be $82,000. So I don't know if they stopped looking at it or what, but yeah, they're working off of like weird, strange estimates. I'm going to let this play for a second real quick.
So what I did was I compared the record in Donald Trump's first term with the Joe Biden first term. And you can see that, by the way, these dotted lines here, Mr. President, that's COVID. So if it had not been for COVID, these numbers would have been substantially better. But even taking account President Trump's last year in 2020, we saw a $6,400 real after inflation gain in income for the average family. And that compares with Joe Biden, which was a measly $551. So, Mr. President, you gain 10 times more income for the average family than Joe Biden is because of your policies.
And that's taken into consideration COVID,
Yep.
which a lot of times you don't have to do that.
Yeah, because
but I'm very glad you did.
We were up over almost 8,000 until.
Look at that number.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we looked at which families did the best. And we have data from the Census Bureau that shows by income percentage. So the 25th percentile is the lowest income, 75th percentile is the highest income. And what I find fascinating about this, Mr. President, is
This one's really interesting. Net change in real household income during presidency by income level. Again, what we can see is that I believe wages outpace inflation for the first time in a while under Joe Biden. Let me pull this up real quick. This is a problem I had whenever people kept bringing up the economy and how bad it was. Yeah, so overall trend for much of the Biden administration, the general outpaced wage growth, leading to a decline in real income. The cumulative effect of inflation, blah, 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 blah. Where is it? Americans are paying, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to find it here. I'll have to look for it. No, I'm not going to keep playing it. But yeah, so wages outpaced inflation under Joe Biden. We saw that play out. And what we're seeing right now is inflation going up again. We see Americans losing their jobs under Donald Trump. Okay. So again, this idea that net change in real household income during presidency by income level, it's important to mention this as well. They're talking about Donald Trump's tax plan. It does say like it's from Unleash Prosperity. I wonder if Unleash Prosperity. Let's see. Unleash Prosperity. Let's see who they are. Let's see. Oh, here we go. They've got the actual stuff up. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Do they have the... Do they have the reports? Let's see. The falsehoods of Obamacare. Let's see. About Meet the Team. Who's on Unleash Prosperity? Interesting. So look, this is kind of funny. They've got, that hurt. They've got Steve Forbes, who's the chairman and editor. It says in both 1996 and 2000, Mr. Forbes campaigned vigorously for the Republican nomination for the presidency. So he's a Republican. Dr. Laffer. So I think he's the guy from the Laffer curve and things of that nature. We have Steve Moore. He's on that board. Phil Kerpen. It says out there, it tells in the book, Democracy Denied, American Commitment to Dedicate, Restoring, and Protect America's Core Commitment to Free Markets, Economic Growth, so on and so forth. Let's see. Who else is on these things? Don't see any real recognizable names. Yeah, but I'm trying to find the board and I don't see it. That's okay. Just keep going.
Is every income group.
Right. Deport the people that harvest our food for really low wages and zero benefits, but pay taxes. Yeah. The problem I'm having right now with the problem I'm having right now with MAGA is their cruelty. Cruelty is the punishment, right? And we've already seen that where they are already getting in trouble with alligator Alcatraz. That is their cruelty. That's what they love.
Did better. The red is President Trump. The blue is President Biden. Every single income group did better under President Trump. But what's really amazing is look what happened under Biden. The lowest income.
The problem I have with this, by the way, that I think is really fascinating is one, this is a problem I would tell you guys. Anytime you see charts, okay, when you see charts, question where they got these charts and what they're trying to do. Okay, first of all, this is very static. I don't know at what point in time. It looks like it's saying
group lost income.
Yeah, it doesn't say. So what we're trying to look at here is what time period is this, right? It says net change in real household income during presidency by income level. If this is over the course of 4 years, well, of course, Donald Trump didn't have a pandemic breakout until the very tail end of it. And even then, I'd be questioning on whether or not they actually brought this in, because real median household income would have gone down under Donald Trump's second term. And if you look at Joe Biden, okay, yeah, he came in after the pandemic when everybody lost their jobs. Of course, it's going to be low on the real median household income. How can it be low here but not under Trump? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
They were poor 4 years after Biden's presidency. No rain virtually whatsoever for the middle class. And the rich was the only group that did better under Biden, which is ironic because Biden keeps saying he was trying.
See, and this is hilarious to me, is that, like, look at how this is why I said you've got to look at the way that they're presenting this information, right? So what they're saying is under Joe Biden, the rich fared better. That's not what this is showing. Donald Trump gave more money to the rich than Joe Biden did. Even if I'm to take what they're saying, look at what this is saying. Donald Trump increased the net change, increased the wealth of the wealthy more than Joe Biden did. Nobody sees this. Even if I'm to take this for real. Which again, I have a whole issue with that in and of itself. But this is hilarious.
Trying to get rid of income inequality. He made income inequality worse, not better. It was President Trump that reduced income inequality.
These numbers just came out.
Alligator Alcatraz is actually good optimization. You have the detention center right there with its own airstrip. This is gaslighting. No, it's not gaslighting. Alligator, why is it? This is the problem I have. The gaslighting is saying, oh, well, we put it there because of the airstrip. Then why is it named Alligator Alcatraz? Why is it named that? Oh, it's a funny word. It's funny. It's funny. That's what they think about it. Why was there all those memes about the alligator moat? The cruelty is the punishment. That is what they want. That is the goal. That's the objective. Turbo Christ, I can pull it up right now. You want me to pull up the sign that's literally right out front of this place that says Alligator Alcatraz? The fact that Donald Trump has advertised it as Alligator Alcatraz? Is that what you want me to provide? I can happily provide that for you. The median, okay. All right. Y'all want the facts? Let's pull it up. Alligator Alcatraz. Images. Here you go. Pull this up for you guys here. Hold on. Copy image. There it is. What was that, guys? What was that? Huh? It's not named Alligator Alcatraz. What's that? What is that? I believe it says Alligator Alcatraz. Okay. So real funny stuff, guys. Real funny. All right.
By the way.
Yep. And then finally, these are the numbers just I just showed you in percentage terms. Mr. President.
There's the Sharpies right there. He's waiting. He's going to bring in a Sharpie and just start drawing all over that.
These are the numbers in dollar terms. So even the low.
This guy does not understand that convicted criminals are there for 14 days and then they're deported. First of all, okay, convicted criminals. Some are not convicted criminals. First and foremost, there is proven, if you go and look at some of even their own advertisements. Now listen, if they are convicted criminals, by all means, deport them. However, they're picking up mothers and fathers who have not committed any crime here in the United States, short of, if you want to be, take it to that extent, short of crossing the border, which is, again, a civil infraction, is the equivalent of a civil infraction. It is nothing. Those hardened criminals, those national security threats, is the mother who is feeding their baby and trying to just live a decent life. The convicted criminals, send them on their way. If they have committed a crime in the United States, by all means, send them on their way. However, I will say this. I think it is, if the idea, let's think about this logically, right? If the idea is that these guys are going to come right back into the United States, okay? If that's the idea, is that they're going to come back to the United States, why don't we house them in our prison so that they don't get out? And why not try to help out other children? Right? Let's think about this. If you have a convicted offender that goes out to, and done this crime here in the United States, fine, send them back. But are you willing to then say you want to send them back into the population of that particular individual country and allow them to potentially reoffend? Or would you like to do the world a service? Which, again, I know they don't like globalism. I get that idea. Why not house them here where we know they will be confined for a set period of time and then deport them? We do this, by the way, all the time. This was something we did prior to Trump's crazy authoritarian play. If you support illegal immigration, then you support modern day slavery. No, I don't. And that's such a crazy leap, such a crazy logical leap.
Lowest income, 25th percent, gained about $4,000 in income. That's a lot for a lower income family. 6,400.
And to what Gayla said, go see a psychiatrist, honey. We voted for that. You may have, and that's great. I'm glad that you voted for inhumane practices. I'm glad to know you voted for that. But other people that I have talked to about this, they didn't vote for this. They may now say they did because they're, too chicken to try to actually admit that they didn't vote for this. Because again, MAGA is an ideology that has no consistent principles. A lot of the people I talked to last year, specifically more so on TikTok, who are more the normies, would argue with me and say that they voted for Trump or were voting for Trump because he's going to get rid of the criminals. And when I asked them, I said, well, what kind of criminals? Those who have committed crimes here in the United States or national security threats. Most of them did not say, and matter of fact, I don't remember, quite frankly, many of them saying that they were voting for him for the sole purpose of deporting every single brown person they come across. And that's exactly what's happening here in the United States, is they're deporting anybody who has a darker shade than white, stopping those individuals, detaining those individuals, and violating those individuals' constitutionally protected rights, namely due process.
Dollars for the middle class and almost 10,000 for the richest. So you can see every income.
And look at this chart, like we just said, right? He's saying, well, see, Joe Biden, you can see this chart go up, guys. Chart go up under Joe Biden. Joe Biden gave a lot more money to the rich. Here's the problem, is that we were still under Donald Trump's tax policy up to that. So the real funny thing about this, by the way, is I want you guys to see a couple things. During Biden's presidency, we were still under Donald Trump's TCJA, which means this $5,000 that we saw with real median household income, that is probably in part due to Donald Trump's TCJA. We probably saw the richest get more rich. There was a huge wealth gap in this country, and this is part of that. But again, even if we were to take this at face value, Donald Trump gave massively, almost double to the wealthiest. I mean, look, this is the crazy thing to me too, right? Is watch what they do here. What they don't show is that there was $10,000 in real household income given to the wealthy, but there's $4,000. So watch how they frame this, right?
Some group did better under Trump than Biden by a wide margin. That's the story.
I think when you look at them, they're all something, but this one chart really says.
You can't even stay on subject. You're unhinged. Well, thank you for your lovely comment. I appreciate your engagement here. Attention, I'm black. No white people here think we need your help. Okay. I don't have blue hair, but thank you. Appreciate the blue hair comment. It was due to inflation from Biden's horrible economic plans over energy. What was Biden's horrible economic plans over energy? I bet you can't provide an actual substantive argument on that at all. Doug, the big bull, bill adds to the deficit by every measure when even by GOP standards. And yeah, that was a problem that they had, right? Think about what they had to do to get the big, beautiful bill to pass. Like it literally had to go get revisions done, sent to the Senate for revisions, and then sent back to the House for revisions. It was not an easy thing for them to pass, and they barely passed it. It's shocking how uninformed the red hats are. Yeah, I agree, Henry. Hey, do me a favor, guys. We got 201 people in here. If you have not hit the like, subscribe, notification bell, please do so now. Thank you.
Anything, if you look at this is great, but this chart is pretty amazing. Right here.
Shut down the pipeline his first day, making us dependent on foreign oil. First of all, that Keystone pipeline was never finished. It had shifted hands multiple times. That Keystone pipeline was never in operation. But I appreciate your concern. And again, I don't want to hear anything about that, given the fact that Donald Trump has put tariffs in place across a whole host of countries. And what happened to the U.S., building up the U.S.? I thought that was the gig. All of that pipeline would have come from Canadian oil, by the way. They've been Canadian. It's shocking how many times Democrats coddle T groups. Interesting, because I believe Donald Trump was the one who collaborated with T groups for the pullout in Afghanistan, which was terribly handled by Donald Trump. The past 40 years, the economy deficit reduction and job growth is always better under Democrats. Exactly, James. You are 110% on point. Time and time again, Democrats are left to clean up after Republicans' messes. Consistently. Democrats screw Canada, and that's why Donald Trump wants to take Canada. Okay? Donald Trump wants to take over Canada. Donald Trump has imposed massive tariffs on Canada. Don't talk to me about Democrats screwing over Canada. Donald Trump has done far more harm to Canada than any Democrats have ever done. Donald Trump doesn't even know what this chart is. And he's like, look at this chart. It was so great. We're going to the next video here. I think we're going to go on to this one here. Oh, holy moly.
Ladies and
Beautiful voice in the background, and that's good. That makes us all feel young. I want to thank everybody for being here on the 200th day in office.
LNG sales to EU will increase the prices too. Yeah, that'll certainly help too. Yeah, because the thing is too, Thorben, I think it's important as well what you just mentioned. A lot of people don't understand that when it comes to LNG or oil and gas and things like that, our refining capacity is very limited. Okay. And what happened during C-19 and what happened during the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the EU became more dependent on the United States. And what the United States had to do was shift their refining capacity to EU-friendly gasoline. Okay. And that EU-friendly gasoline meant that they produced less of US-friendly gasoline. And so guess what? Supply is low. Demand is high, extremely high, because what they're trying to do is a lot of more Americans that were coming out of the pandemic and they wanted to travel more. So guess what happens under Joe Biden due to Donald Trump's terrible policies? Beep, goes up. That's what happens. And by the way, on the topic of Ukraine and Russia, as a side note, Donald Trump is going to go and speak with Putin in Alaska to discuss a peace deal with Ukraine, which is not really a peace deal. It is extremely one-sided to favor Vladimir Putin. And Zelensky has already come out and said, we're not giving any part of our country back. And that is what Putin wants. Putin wants a portion of their country. And Zelensky rightfully said, bug off. Don't worry, climate change lies are dying with the USAID money. And yeah, I'm glad, Gen X boomer, that you are so excited about making children across the world starve, because that's what that USAID money is doing. So that USAID, there was food that was burned in the United States. You talk about homelessness, but you don't care about the child that's starving across the globe. You only care about children that look like you. And the reason why I say that is because look at what's happening in our country right now. You don't care what's happening to your neighbor, but you sure as hell care about what's happening to your children and your own house. So spare me when you sit there and you make arguments, for example, about abortion and how much you care about that child's life, but God forbid that child is born in another country, then you don't care about them. MAGA are the most inconsistent when it comes to principles. They have no principles. Like that Willy Wonka show, right? You won nothing. You have no principles. Can't care about hungry kids in the U.S. if you cut money to poorest kids. Can't care about hungry kids in the U.S. if you cut money to the poorest kids. I don't know what you mean by that, but we should be caring about all children. not just the ones here in the United States. Those ones that are, listen, I've had a fairly mutual stance when it comes to Israel and Gaza. I've tried to stay out of it as much as possible. But me being a human, caring about everybody, because that's the godly thing to do, because I've seen so many Christian MAGA out there preach the gospel, care about Jesus, but then don't care about the neighbor's kids who are starving. They don't care about their neighbor in the Middle East that's starving. It's antithetical to the Christian religion to sit there and celebrate cutting funding and aid to these countries while these kids are starving. Spare me when you sit there and you cry about the children, but then you don't care about the children overseas. Let's continue.
This is 200 days already. Time flies. But we have a country that's the hottest country right now anywhere in the world. A year ago, it was in a lot of trouble.
You literally vote to continue a genocide currently at 50 million, so please don't bring up God. What have I supported? Who did I vote that would have voted for a genocide? I just said those kids that are starving in Gaza, they deserve food. And I'll tell you as well, when it comes to this food being airdropped, I have a whole host of issues with that, because I understand that there are bad actors that are certainly in Gaza that are going to hoard that food, and that the people down there are still going to starve, and this aid is wholly inefficient. And then now we found out that now we see Netanyahu saying he wants to take over the Strip, mimicking and echoing what Donald Trump has already stated. There is a humane approach to what is going on in that region. And the way that Republicans are handling this, nor just look at the neighbors in our own country, those who are undocumented, who are now being ripped. You know, this is the crazy thing about it to me, is I heard about these, oh my God, the 200,000 missing children. What about the child who just now had their father or their mother ripped away from them and being sent to a country they have not known for either decade or decades or more? It's amazing and baffling to me when they care about undocumented migrant children and then they don't care about them. They don't care about the mother being ripped away that's breastfeeding their child. They don't care about that child. I don't care about that. Exactly, Bill. Sino. Christian in name only. They are 110% lacking any moral principles. They'll put their hand on Trump, but they won't put their hand to pray. They'll put their hand on Trump to pray, and they'll pray for Trump, but they won't put their hand on the child who's being ripped away in a divided household. Baffling to me.
It's the hottest country, and a lot of the people in this room made it that way. Perhaps the most successful and consequential first two.
It's called consequences. So then you want the mother ripped away from their child. Got it. You don't want a humane approach to that. The mother who's working their 9 to 5, working as hard as they can, instead of providing a pathway to citizenship, you want to rip that mother away from their child. Don't ever make an argument in my chat about how much you care about children and care about those 200,000 missing children when you are totally okay with the mother being ripped away from her family and her children, being in a divided household, creating more divided households. No one wants to rip any mother away from their child. That's ridiculous, man. You're being dramatic. Get over yourself. So you're telling me then that the father or the mother who is going to their job, or maybe they're in the Home Depot parking lot trying to get work. Certainly that's a possibility. You're telling me that that person, that mother or that father who's going there does not, appreciate that, Henry, for dropping that gift sub. Appreciate that gifted sub membership. But you're telling me that that mother or father that's going there doesn't Oh, yo, Days, appreciate that. You're telling me that mother or father does not have children at home? So spare me with that. Sorry, I got a little distracted with that. That was a news story. Just read, folks. What was a news story? Days, you're okay. I'm cool with left and right. I don't agree with either side. Not a problem. I bet this guy says it's okay to American babies, but starving kids in Gaza is horrible. Inevitable, you don't even know my position on abortion. You'd actually be very, very surprised. It's actually very nuanced. You should probably ask what my position is before giving it its description. Okay? And I care about just as much as that child as I do any other child because I'm very consistent with my principles. Unlike you MAGA folks. It's funny that you can't even answer the basic question, but you want to divert that and start saying, well, what about you? I'm asking y'all a very pointed question. You say you care about children. Why don't you care about children that are being ripped away or being put in a divided household? So, yeah. All right, let's continue on.
100 days, they say.
The dad had to take an infant home with no breast milk from hospital. Yeah, and this is the thing too, man, is what you guys are advocating for is, and what about those instances in which the child has no other family member other than the father or the mother? And then the father or mother get ripped away. Now, guess what? That child's going into a foster care system. Congratulations, MAGA. You just boosted the foster care system. You did that.
Of an administration in history. So let's hope they keep saying it. There they are right there.
And Days, I think it is an incredibly difficult position for the mother and the father, quite frankly, to be in when it comes to that decision. I typically try to avoid that topic as much as possible. I look at it from a very legalistic lens, and I put any of my personal feelings left at the door when it comes to that particular position. One of the reasons why I'm a liberal. I think in the society that we are given, I think the Roe v. Wade framework was the perfect framework to have. I think it's a perfect framework. That's where I stand. So let's continue.
I hope they keep saying it. But even more importantly, this is also National Purple Heart Day, and we're here to honor and celebrate.
Listen to what Trump's about to say, guys. Listen to this real quick.
The unyielding patriotism and grit and devotion.
Hey, guys, do me a favor. We got 313 people in here. We've already saw a gifted membership. I appreciate that. Do me a solid if you want to. It's very free. All you have to do is hit the like, subscribe, notification bell if you have not already. If you're new to the stream, I am the Vince Wilson Show. We stream Wednesdays and Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I appreciate every single one of you guys that have come in here. All you have to do is hit the like button. It is a free thing to do. Appreciate all you guys.
To America's Purple Heart veterans is great emotion and great love. The Purple Heart dates back to August 7th.
Democrats hate veterans. That's why Donald Trump uses veterans as a political tool. Donald Trump used the veterans who passed from the Gold Star, the families who had family members pass away from the Afghanistan withdrawal. And remember, they went to Arlington and took that photo op in a very restricted space. Yeah, that was a political photo op. So spare me about Democrats don't care about veterans. Republicans use people. Think about this. Donald Trump had that child that had brain cancer. Used him as well. Haven't heard a peep about him since.
1782. That's a long time when General George Washington awarded.
Dave said I was going to donate, but my Google Play isn't connected. It's all good, Days. I appreciate everything you guys have done. I appreciate it.
A heart-shaped purple cloth to 3 soldiers for outstanding gallantry and service in battle. This afternoon, we're joined by dozens of Purple Heart recipients and their families, and just as General Washington.
Inevitable said, can you defend Democrats without using Trump as an excuse? Can you defend Democrats without using Trump as an... Okay, so you're saying it double place. So first of all, the reason why Democrats have such a low approval rating right now is primarily due to the fact that they are very upset with the fact that their leadership is totally inept. We saw, for example, I believe it was the funding bill. I believe is what it was. There was funding or something like that, Chuck Schumer ended up saying, I'm not going to vote for it. I'm not going to let it go through. I'm going to let Republicans own it. And then went in and ended up voting for it anyways. Democrats are upset with their leadership. Even Democrats are, because we hold our own accountable. Kamala Harris proposed tax cuts for families. The child tax credit increase. She was for no tax on overtime, just like Donald Trump. She was for tax credits for small businesses to try to get them up and running. She was for a lot of tax cuts. Very moderate, all things considered. But she was too closely tied to Donald Trump or to Joe Biden's economic policies. And so a lot of people, unfortunately, associated Kamala Harris with inflation, even though, by the way, Joe Biden's economy was actually extremely well. All things considered, you look at CPI was going down. Joe Biden was starting to get some infrastructure coming in via CHIPS, the CHIPS Act. We saw a lot of the TSMC, I believe it was, the Taiwanese chip manufacturer, came to the United States. We saw wages outpacing inflation, record stock market highs last year. But unfortunately, the propaganda machine of the Republican Party was too strong to overcome. Democrats haven't had one single good idea in 50 years. All they do is demonize law enforcement and tell lies about themselves. Yeah, I don't want to hear about law enforcement when Donald Trump ended up pardoning numerous individuals from January 6th that assaulted our law enforcement. So spare me about I love our law enforcement, unless it's actually somebody that supports you guys.
Did 243 years ago. Today we give our everlasting thanks.
I've already explained why gas went up under $1 under Biden. It's because of the Ukrainian war and the shifting of our refinery capacity.
To you and your unbelievable families, we want to thank you very much for being here. It's my great honor. We're also joined by American patriots who love our military and our veterans, including Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. You're doing a great job, Pete. Thank you. We're working hard together.
Yeah, and Pete Hegseth got himself in a little bit of hot water today, too. He reposted some kind of a video or something about the Christian Crusades and how women shouldn't vote. Not looking good.
Secretary of Veterans Affairs with 92% approval.
See, Kuptu said Epstein ran around with Democrats. You're right. And guess what? We and I have said numerous times. Release the list. Let us see the list. Why is Donald Trump not releasing them? You see, here's the thing about Republicans and MAGA. I hold a consistent set of principles. MAGA doesn't have it. Their principles sway with the wind. One minute they support this, and then the next minute they don't support it because Donald Trump said their dear leader and their daddy Trump. Remember in the Bible how it talks about thou shalt not have any idols before me? Yeah. Trump is their idol. Those MAGA hats. Yeah. Remember, by the way, the biblical stories about the Sadducees and the Pharisees, I think it was Pharisees, that were preaching out loud in front of the temple and was screaming at all the preachers, and they're praying and everything else. And Jesus said he has already received his reward. Remember that? See, you guys, you MAGA didn't realize that you're talking to somebody who grew up in the church. Surprise, surprise. By the way, coming from as a former conservative who saw his party being absolutely taken over by this disgusting MAGA ideology. Take a break. You left us a wow. Oh man, take a break. Thank you for your comment. I so appreciate it. Sorry, I didn't vote because I can blame you for who you voted for. MAGA have twisted morals. Now I realize why they say all the time, think about children. You are so insane with CDS. You were lost. Oh man, you guys are so sensitive. You're so sensitive. I mentioned your dear leader, Daddy Trump, and you guys go nuts in the chat. I know. All right, let's continue.
Rating, I hear. It's a record. Doug Collins. Thank you very much, Doug. The Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. She's got a lot of interesting things happening in the last 2 months.
Move to a country that fits your communist beliefs. Hey, go and check out my bio, by the way. I'm actually not a communist. I'm a liberal. But I appreciate your boomer take of a communism. It's actually pretty hysterical. No, we aren't sensitive. We defend lies. We aren't sensitive. We defend... What? What are you talking about, Cheryl? Not true, Kuptu. If Clinton was on the list, get it known and get him convicted. Don't hide it. You can't say the same thing about... Yes, 100%, John. 100%. They'll complain about all the Clintons. What about the Democrats? But the moment you mention Trump, they duck off.
A lot of interest. Keep it coming, Tulsi. Keep it coming. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
This is always like kind of the boring part. This is where they just start talking about, like, you know, all the people that are there.
And they said this again. I'm going to make him the chairman. I want to thank you very much. James, thank you. Well, you're better looking than I am. I'll tell you. Where might he be? Oh, look at you. You're better looking than I am. I'll tell you that. Thank you very much. The Marine Corps veteran who co-managed my 2024 campaign, a fantastic talent in many ways after he was wounded in battle for our country in Operation Desert Storm, Chris La Civetta. So where is Chris? Beautiful daughter. Nice. It speaks of a price paid for a story of courage, sacrifice, and purpose. It speaks of a price paid for the soldier beside you, the country behind.
You do definitely defend Democrat lies. What Democrat lies have I defended? If you're going to say that, substantiate the claim.
Behind you and the generations of Americans yet to come. And we have some great generations to follow. It's going to happen. Those who wear this medal ran into bullets, faced ferocious bombs, and shed their blood on the field of battle. We will never forget what they did. We will always use them as an example of bravery and courage and strength. And we will also always think, when we look at them, of our great American flag. We want our great...
TDS is a very real mental disorder. It's called a reprobate mind in Romans chapter 1. Oh, so you see, USMC, you're right. TDS is a real mental disorder. Trump derangement syndrome exists on the right. They're so deranged that they are so sycophanical for Donald Trump. You know, I agree. TDS is all over the right. It's all over the right. They just bow down before their idol of Donald Trump. They can't even fathom. I'm not even saying that you Republicans have to vote for a Democrat. Quite frankly, all I'm saying is you Republicans probably ought to vote, if you are a Christian, for at the very least a third party, if not a Democrat. The Republican Party now has nothing but idols, and that idol is right here, Donald Trump.
American flag to be strong, and it's stronger than ever. Since day one, my administration has used every power we have to fight for those who have fought for America. In 6 months, we have reduced the backlog of veterans waiting.
Yeah, you're right, Spartacus. MAGA has BDS, Biden derangement syndrome, both Hunter and Joe Biden. They definitely do.
And that waiting list was very long, Doug, wasn't it, for the benefits. And
I bet you dream Trump. You can't keep him out of your mouth. That's the same way that some of his administration officials can't keep him out of his mouth. Convenient, huh? There's a little bit of orange Cheeto dust always after they get done speaking with Donald Trump. Oh, it's convenient.
It's 37%. So it's just, is that all you did, Doug? 37? I don't know, huh? That's incredible, actually. You're getting tremendous marks, and we appreciate it very much. We processed more than 2 million disability benefit claims this fiscal year, on track for the most ever. In fact, not even close. We're slashing wait times at the VA medical centers, and we're bringing back VA choice.
Exactly, Cheryl. But the problem is all MAGA knows how to do is name call. They want to get a rile. They want to get a high off of name calling, and they want to make people. They love the idea of owning the libs, even though they're not owning. Most of the comments that are in here right now, by the way, are like low tier troll efforts. Like, you got to step it up a little bit. Y'all's game sucks.
And VA accountability, as you know, we had it, and then the previous administration. Let's go with the.
Osby said, "Why aren't you phony pieces of garbage screaming for Hunter Biden to be arrested for?" Well, first of all, why aren't you phony pieces of garbage screaming for Donald Trump to be released the list, right? And I don't even know if that claim is not substantiated at all that I can recall. So I don't know what accusation you're talking about there. That's kind of crazy. IPA, let's go Brandon Herrera. Let's go Brandon Herrera. Yo, IPA, shout out to the Twitch chat. Y'all are struggling a little bit on the viewership, but that's okay. Would you rather watch a tree grow or... Wow, Sam, you almost got me there. And for that, I'll go ahead and boot you from the channel. Congratulations. Have a great day. Reducing prescription drug costs 15,000%. Ha ha ha. Yeah, Richard, reducing prescription drug costs, those, by the way, he has struggled massively to reduce. And by putting a tariff on the EU, it necessarily raises drug costs. Good job, Trump. You just raised prescription prices.
Biden administration, they decided to get rid of it. And choices where if you wait in line for an extended period or you're not going to see a doctor for a while, you have the right to go out and get a doctor and we'll pay for it. And you get yourself all fixed up real fast. You don't have to wait 6 weeks, 8 weeks, months like they were doing. And VA accountability, I'm very proud of those. We got them passed. Actually, Doug, you were a member of Congress when we did. You helped us a lot.
How can you reduce something 1,500%? Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's tinfoil, right? You count. How can you? I didn't even think about that. I'm over here. I'm just like in the zone. I didn't even think about it. That's true. How do you reduce something by 1,500%? I didn't even think about that. That's a good point. It's free. I didn't even think about that. That's a good point. That's kind of like when they say they made oil, like it went down to where you were able to buy it or whatever. That's a good point. You look curvy in face. You drink, sir? I do not drink. And I used to work out pretty heavily, but I ended up I didn't work out in a while. Hey guys, look, we got 317 of you guys. Please hit the like, subscribe, notification bell. Thank you. 1,500% is a bigly strong percentage, right? I love your channel when you called out all the Biden's nonsense and ramblings. Yeah, I did. I called out some of Joe Biden's policies. I think the American Rescue Plan, for example, although had definitely its perks, I think the biggest issue I had with that one was the third stimulus check. The third, yes, because Donald Trump passed 2 stimulus checks that overheated the economy, and Joe Biden definitely put some more in there. So I think there are definitely issues that you can be critical of Joe Biden. For example, another good one is that Joe Biden ended up trying to pass everything through legislation instead of executive order. He was very light-handed on his executive orders. So, for example, with the immigration policy, he put in some policies through executive action, but he tried to do things the right way, which was also his biggest downfall. It was his best accomplishment and best thing about him, best attribute, but unfortunately it was his biggest downfall.
But we got them passed in the legislature, so they're with us forever, and yet Biden found a way to not use them. But VA accountability, that's when we have bad people in the Veterans Association that were taking advantage of people, hurting people, and they weren't in prime time. In prime time, they wouldn't have touched them, but they weren't quite in prime time, and they were doing bad things. They were sadists, they were thieves, and some bad people. We had 9,000 of them. We fired every one of them, and it was a great thing. And then he put some of those people back. I don't know why they did that, but they did it. But we got them out again, I think, Doug, right? So it's good. So we had VA choice, VA accountability, something we're very proud of. I'm also working to keep my promise to end veterans' homelessness in America. In May, I signed an executive order to open the National Center for Warrior Independence in Los Angeles, California, which will house up to 6,000 homeless vets. It's going to be beautiful.
We'll see how this turns out. I'm very skeptical of this. But look, I'll say this. If this opens up and it runs smoothly, probably not a bad thing. But we'll see. And I'm very skeptical of what's coming out of this. And I haven't looked too much into it. So I'm looking at it very much like just on its surface.
And just last week, I signed the VA Home Loan Program Reform Act.
I agree with you, Upstate. Smoothly? Yeah, I doubt it's going to be smooth. But we'll see how it goes. Democrats don't care about veterans. Robert, I believe I just sat there and said this is probably a good thing if it goes and runs smoothly. Problem is Donald Trump has a very bad track record of like destroying businesses. And I'm also skeptical of how this is being portrayed. A lot of what Donald Trump does is take credit for things that are already in existence. So I haven't looked too much into this to see, but we'll see. Not a problem, Days. I appreciate you coming in and enjoying the stream.
A big deal to help ensure no veteran is kicked out of their home for a late payment. If you're a little bit late, don't worry about it. And frankly, if you're a lot late, you don't have to worry about it either.
I'm for this, but I'm a little skeptical of this. So, for example, if you are late paying your rent, which again, I don't know, the problem with this is it's kind of like the no tax on overtime, right? The problem is the no tax on overtime came with a ton of stipulations. And so I would not be surprised if you're late on your rent, how late is late, right? Are we talking 15 days, 2 days, 30 days, 60 days? How late? And is this already going to fall in line with, for example, some of the policies that already run in line with some of these states and some of the protections that these states have? Lots of issues with this, but it depends. Depends on how it's implemented.
You just get it in when you can. Get it in when you can. And America's veterans have done their duty for us, and under the Trump administration, we are doing our duty for you, okay? That's the way it's supposed to be. One of our brave soldiers with us today is Army Veteran Specialist Kevin Jensen.
Later days. Appreciate you coming in, man. Appreciate everybody coming here. Anything positive by Trump was done by someone else, dismantled by Trump, and then replaced by a shitty cop. Yeah, John, you're exactly right, right? Like, Donald Trump has a very good habit of like destroying something, fixing it, and then taking credit for fixing something that he destroyed, right? When you avoid what was said and go into demeaning description instead, then you are being intentionally clueless. Yeah. Isn't it better than nothing? It's great that he's trying to do something. Inevitable, I've already stated, right? My biggest thing is I'm not someone who is like saying that Trump is 100%. Let me put it this way. For every one or two good things that Trump may do, there's 100 bad things that overshadow anything that might be good. Let me put it this way. Would you want me to give you a penny, or would you want me to give you $100 if you're starving? Right? I mean, that's not the best example because you'll take whatever you can get, right? Penny. But I think at the end of the day, what I'm trying to get at is that all of those things that he does that are bad are massively worse and overshadow any of the good that he does. So when he sits there and he's like, oh, well, I'm going to provide a bill that won't let homeless veterans be kicked out of their home. Depends on how it's implemented, to be very clear. Although it is a good policy, tomorrow he's going to say he wants to repeal the 14th Amendment. Just saying. It's giving breadcrumbs to something that's way worse.
2008, Specialist Jensen was a gunner in a Humvee racing to support a platoon ambushed by the Taliban in Afghanistan. His vehicle was hit by a roadside bomb, flew 10 feet. He flew.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The tips are just a tax break gimmick, and it's capped at a low level. You're 100% correct. At a certain point, it's like, I think it's like $12,000 to $20,000, something like that. Even then, I think it's even lower than that. At that point, you have to start paying taxes on it after that.
10 feet up into the air and exploded in flames. The whole place was on flames, including, unfortunately, Kevin. But he suffered deep third-degree burns, and all over his body he was in trouble, big trouble, despite the agony. Was celebrating their incredible bravery. Okay, I thought they were going to take questions. We'll watch this one here. So this one here.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
So this right here is between Azerbaijan and Armenian president. I want to provide a little bit of context to this. What ended up happening here with these two nations is they've been at war for several decades. Okay, this is not something that is just happening. It's been several decades, but there's not been any meaningful action since 2023, guys. 2023, not been any meaningful action. So for all intents and purposes, they were at peace. Donald Trump is bringing them to the table to create a quote unquote peace deal. The problem is we've seen these peace deals and then they get violated the next day. Okay. So first of all, not that major of accomplishment as he's going to make it sound out to be. Secondly, it's going to take time to see if this even holds true. Okay. This peace deal is in essence almost nothing. It means virtually nothing. CRXR said 35 years. Yeah, you're exactly right. It's something like that.
It's a great honor. Thank you. It's a long time, 35 years.
That's nonsense. They've been fighting for 35 years. This isn't on paper peace agreement. I thought it was on paper. I thought they agreed to a peace agreement. If not, then I stand corrected. Good original one, Troy. Your glass is always half empty, isn't it? No, I have a pretty... Oh, I see. You're talking about this glass over here on the right? It's mostly empty right now. But in terms of my viewpoint on the world, I always view the world half full. Yeah, our country is in terrible, terrible straits right now. But I do think that we can have a very good outcome, especially in the midterms. This is a big argument to get out and vote. And Democrats in Texas especially are on the front lines right now. They need to make sure that they hold down the fort and they do not give in to Republican demands. If the Democrats can hold out and stay in Chicago until past December, it'll force Republicans to not be able to vote. Their redistricting efforts, They will not be able to pass that in time for the midterms. So they need to hold out past Christmas. That means they've got 4 more months that they have to hold out in Illinois. That is why Republicans are desperate to get these Democrats to Texas, because they're running out of time.
They fought, and now they're friends, and they're going to be friends for a long time.
Zach Wild said the country has been in dire straits for a long time, but mostly since COVID. You are incorrect. Well, I would say dire straits since at least Donald Trump has been trying to erode our constitutional protections. That would be when I would say we were really in dire straits, personally. I think Joe Biden tried to do his best to really unite the country. I think he did his best to try to be a president for all citizens. But MAGA was too disillusioned by Donald Trump and voted him in again. And they would probably vote him in for 2028. So I don't want to hear any of this argument that Donald Trump, they won't vote for Donald Trump if he runs in 2028. I don't believe it. You guys will vote for Donald Trump in 2028.
But it's a big, beautiful honor to welcome everyone to the White House for this very historic. Very importantly, we have also
Historic day also because
we haven't drilled in many years, I guess I could say ever before, and we just started. We're also lifting restrictions on defense cooperation between.
Yeah, keep in mind the drilling thing. We've had record oil production under Joe Biden, by the way. If you go and look at oil production, we had pretty high records. Even the can do better than the president. Hell yeah, we would have voted for. Again, he's the best president. See, this is why I said y'all got TDS. Y'all got TDS, man.
Between Azerbaijan and the United States of America. The president, that's a big deal. Unless, is that important to you? I think so. We have some other big announcements, but I didn't want to make them because I don't want to do anything that could even, in a little.
I'm trying to see here.
all of us from all definite.
And the Prime Minister of the Republic of Armenia will now sign the joint declaration on the outcomes of the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity Summit.
Oh, is it a route? So it's not even a peace deal. Okay, so I stand corrected. This isn't even a peace deal. I didn't see this part. I've been absent for like the past week. So this is basically a route to a peace agreement. This isn't a peace agreement.
To the president, to peace, stability, and prosperity.
Come on.
And we'll hold up. It's really a big day, and we have some other big announcements, but I didn't want to make them because I 35 respect suffered, and so many people have been killed. So I'm going to head over this, Steve. So, but this is a really incredible leadership it took. Let people down very, very, at least slightly.
Related, just because you mentioned the
Here we go.
peace in Ukraine.
Right.
Who is holding up this Ukraine ceasefire summit? Is it Putin or is it Zelensky?
Well, I think it's that one is, as you know, we've been working on a lot of these deals. We've closed.
What a lie for you to say Biden tried to unite the country. He did nothing but divide it. Why do you think Trump won? Trump was the divider in chief. Like, it's hilarious to me how deranged you MAGA Republicans are. It's amazing to me. Donald Trump is literally ripping families apart right now. He's literally sending in the National Guard and the military to Los Angeles. He's denying federal aid to individual states. How is Trump being a uniter in chief? He's being a divider in chief. Obama was divider. Oh, Obama was the divider in chief. Typical white liberal beta male. If you have to call someone a beta male, you're probably a beta yourself. Okay, let's just be honest.
Every single one of them, all throughout the world, and that's the last of.
You're incorrect, Cheryl. You're incorrect. Obama deported. He did. He deported millions. But the problem is that if you look at when the deporter in chief was given to him, it was given by Democrats. And to be clear, the way that Obama was deporting individuals was massively different than the way that Donald Trump is deporting individuals. Donald Trump is participating in quotas. He's participating in the fact that he wants to go out and just stop and frisk individuals. There was a methodology and there was due process that was given under Obama. Here, that's not being given. And Obama, I believe, and I could be wrong on this, I believe he was stopping individuals that were coming across immediately and deporting those that immediately came across. Donald Trump is actively going after people here in the United States, not just at the border. Lies, Obama had people in cages too. Listen, guess what? Yeah, that was probably bad. Yeah. So I'm glad that you think that that's bad with the cages. I'm glad you think that's bad. So did you think it was bad when Donald Trump did that? Absolutely getting rid of the worst of the worst. The mother who's going to feed their child, going to work as a janitor or they're trying to go and work for construction or whatever they may be doing, going to feed for their child is the worst of the worst. That's who this is the worst. That's the worst of the worst. Yeah, good job. Deport all illegals. Yeah, y'all have lost the plot. That's okay.
And they're losing, Peter, about 6, maybe even 7,000 soldiers every single week. Russia, as you know, lost.
Exactly, John. Worst of the worst. The veterans, the children who have cancer, college students, the worst of the worst. Those college students who are just getting an education. Those are the worst of the worst. It's insane.
Almost 25,000 over the last month and a half. And
you are a child. What do you remember? Well, first of all, far from it. I'm not going to say how old I am, but I've told you guys I'm in my 30s. Okay. Now, to you, I might be a child, depending on your age. And I will say our stats tend to skew a little bit older. And I can tell via the chat that a lot of the people that are in my chat right now tend to be older individuals.
Ukraine lost just a small number, fewer. It's a lot of people are dying, and I think we're getting very close. And we're going to be announcing later on. We're going to have a meeting with.
USMC Mustang said this guy is just repeating the horse shit he heard on mental disorder fake news from fake news actors who just openly lie about the Trump administration. It's funny you say that because I believe you probably more than likely listen to Fox News, or if not, you listen to a lot of the higher ups in the administration who happen to have been Fox News hosts. You talk about fake news, you talk about propaganda, yet you will sit there and not say a damn word about Fox News. Who literally, we have how many Fox News hosts sitting in this administration? I don't want to hear anything about propaganda. I don't want to hear anything about fake news when we have Fox News hosts scattered all across this administration.
Russia. We'll start off with Russia, and we'll announce a location. I think the location will be a very popular one for a lot of reasons. But we'll be announcing that a little bit later. I just don't want to do it now because of the importance of what we just did.
I completely understand.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Follow-up. Are you surprised that Zelensky hasn't figured out by now, in years of war, how to deal with you and to deal with Putin without needing permission to make concessions from his parliament or from a national...
And Zach, it's funny too. When we talk about the mainstream media, Donald Trump has done a damn good job at a chilling effect. He's removed funding from PBS and NPR. He's also sat there and sued CBS. I believe he's even sued ABC, if I'm not mistaken, or was going to. Right? So now these news organizations are terrified of reporting anything that is negative towards Donald Trump. Again, remember, we talked about how Joe Biden was such a terrible president. I don't remember Joe Biden going after these news organizations, but Donald Trump has. USMC is hilarious. Hey, everyone. This guy is the epitome of what happens to someone who denies God's existence. Clearly, you didn't come in here earlier. Clearly didn't come in here when I was talking about the Pharisees who was preaching in the temple And Jesus said that man has already received his reward because he was preaching out loud. His reward was getting the attention of all those people. I didn't mention anything certainly about the easy 10 commandments, right? Thou shalt not have no idol before me. We can talk about Jesus who helped the leper, who healed the leper. Jesus who had the prostitute, right? I think Mary, was it Mary Magdalene? So we can talk about all those. But, I deny God's existence. It's an interesting way of framing that when you have no idea who I am. That's okay. Wanted to sue the Wall Street Journal until Murdoch dog walked Trump, said he would. Wanted to sue the Wall Street Journal until Murdoch dog walked Trump, said he would give deposition the day before Trump. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing too, right? Is Donald Trump is like, I'm going to sue the Wall Street Journal for talking about the picture that they had received from showing Epstein or whatever, the birthday card. Donald Trump ended up, I have not seen anything about it. I think it may have ended. He might have revoked it. Yep, I was upset at the fake news too at first too, but what's good is there's news that shows both sides here in America. No. Even the liberal media nowadays paint a very rosy picture of Donald Trump. And they're not super extremely critical of Donald Trump. They don't ask hard-hitting questions for when they're interviewing Donald Trump. Eric said, I grew up in the 50s when kids can play on the streets. You're the problem, not the answer. You said it all when you said I grew up in the 50s. You are part of the generation who is the older generation who was likely grew up during the misogynistic, racist era and has been so ingrained in your ideology that you refuse to move anywhere away from your ideology. And I don't know if I can necessarily fault you for that. That's part of being old and stubborn. I can tell you, I was somebody who ended up voting for Romney in 12. This is a broken record here, but I voted for Romney in 12. Voted for Trump, unfortunately, in 16. Voted for Cruz in 18. Voted for Trump in 20. Unfortunately, voted in 20. To then be determined that it was sad to see what our country had devolved into in January 6th of 2021. I did not vote in 2022. In 2024, I voted for Kamala Harris and Colin Allred. I voted Democrat for the first time in my life, and it was extremely awkward and extremely difficult because I had not done so in my entire life. I grew up conservative. I grew up around conservative parents. I was brainwashed into believing the conservative ideology. Now, I'll admit, I think the Republican Party has gone a long way from where they were initially. I think if we look back at the likes of Mitt Romney, they'd be considered a rhino, if not a Democrat by this point. Hell, let's be very honest. We see Mike Pence speaking out against Trump. Mike Pence speaking out against Donald Trump. That should speak volumes. This isn't just some kind of disheveled, fired administration cabinet official. This was Trump's former vice president speaking out against Donald Trump. That should raise alarm bells.
Well, he's going out and getting what he needs. He's not authorized to do certain things.
Hey, guys, do me a favor. Spartacus said it, but we are 10 likes away from 100 likes. Can I please give me 10 likes, guys? It's free to do. We've now been streaming for an hour and 40 minutes. We do have a super chat goal that is probably set to expire here in about the next 20 minutes. If we reach a super chat goal of 10, it's usually have to spend $5 or more for it. If you can get us that, we'll extend the stream by an hour. But I wanted to make that advertisement known. But anyways, I appreciate everything you guys do. Let's continue on.
I said, well, you're going to have to get it fast because, we're getting very close to a deal. And he's doing that, and he's working with the European nations, and they're terrific people, terrific leaders, NATO. And as you know,
BJM said Trump wants TV like when I went to Venezuela years ago, and 80%. Oh, man, I didn't see it. But yeah, Donald Trump wants a media that's super favorable to him. You are telling us who you are. We are not creating you. You create your own character, and it's filled with irrationality and supported by lame arguments about starving children in Gaza. So, wait. I create my own character as if I'm fake. Okay. So you don't believe I care about the starving children in Gaza? Do you believe there are starving children in Gaza? Do you believe that USAID food should be going to those international people that we have already established these relationships with? Do you support that? No, you don't. Do you support ripping mothers and fathers away from their children? Yeah, that's me creating my own character. No, I absolutely care about those children because I have children of my own. No one wants to see starving children, but it's not Trump's fault. It's not Trump's fault. Are you serious right now? You're going to tell me then that the USAID food that they burned because of Donald Trump's cuts to USAID is not Trump's fault? You don't believe that the starving children right now in Africa that were reliant on that USAID food is not because of Trump's fault? You talk about engaging in false facts, yet you engage in them all the time. But yeah, it's not Trump's fault. It's not Trump's fault, guys. USAID absolutely had to go. Listen, Steve, if that's what you believe, great. But USMC seems to have believed in his olden ways that this had nothing to do with Trump, that the USAID spending cuts had nothing to do with Trump. That's the argument here, is whether or not those starving children in Gaza or those starving children in Africa or anywhere else in the country or even those deportations, his argument is that has nothing to do with Trump. That's just patently false. That argument in of itself is patently false. Now, as to whether or not we should be giving aid to these countries, in which what it seems like Steve Primavera is arguing on, we absolutely should be giving them to these countries because, again, diplomacy is massively beneficial to us. And furthermore, I would like for starving children who are unable to fend for themselves to be fed. Yeah, I kind of like that. If we can help them out for a few pennies on the dollar, absolutely, yeah, we should help those people out. USAID should have never existed. Okay. I'm glad. I mean, again, you want to provide a solution to, again, I think USAID was pretty small, by the way. I'd love to see what you guys would do with, my monitor is messing up. Weird. Donald Trump, let me see here. Okay, it's fixed. Guys, listen, y'all got to chill out on this language. You got to chill on this language. I probably would agree with y'all to some extent, but these words, you got to chill out. You got to make it TOS friendly. USAID mostly funded liberal ideology. Like what? Like what, Gray Man? What liberal ideology? What's the conspiracy theory of the day?
Became very friendly with them. They agreed to go from 2% to 5%, 2% that they didn't pay to 5% that they've already paid. It's trillions of dollars. So, we're working together very closely. But no, in all fairness to President Zelensky, he's getting everything he needs to assuming we get something done. But I'll be meeting very shortly with President Putin. It would have been sooner, but I guess there's security arrangements that unfortunately people have to make. Otherwise, I'd do it much quicker. He would too. He'd like to meet as soon as possible. I agree with it. But we'll be.
John F. said the U.S. burned thousands of pounds of food that they let expire as other countries offered to take it. Trump would rather food burn before it's fed to a child. This is your man of God. Absolutely. Absolutely, John. And this is the problem I have. And now, if you guys don't believe me, I'll pull it up here. USAID food burned. This is from The Atlantic. The Trump administration is about to incinerate 500 tons of emergency food. It's crazy. And this is from July 17th. USAID workers lobbied for weeks to save food stocks from destruction after Trump cuts. Give them cheese from the Missouri cheese cave. Right. That was the Democrats, no lie. What was the Democrats, Cheryl? Let's continue on.
Be announcing that very shortly. Okay. And location. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, with this meeting with Putin, is this Russia's last chance to achieve peace? And do you expect...
Hey guys, we had 107 likes. Thank you so much for every single one of you guys for hitting that like button. Let's try to get up there to, let's see, we'll end the stream at 100. Well, I don't want to say end the stream at 130. Let's try to get to 130 before we end the stream. Okay, we got about another approximately 20 to 25 minutes before we end, 20 to 40 minutes before we end the stream.
Expect Ukraine to make any type of territorial concession?
Yeah, I don't like using the term last chance. Look, it's, look, this is two very...
There are two countries in the world who are trying to feed those people right now, USA and Israel. First of all, you are correct that Donald Trump now is sending aid to Gaza because it's become such a terrible optics for his administration. Now he's sending aid. And let's be very clear, this aid that he's sending is via airdrop. I have a significant issue with that, okay? Because what will end up happening is the few bad actors in that country, whoever gets to that stockpile first, is very likely going to be the one to end up hoarding that food. There are certainly bad actors in that region. So I think the way that they're handling it is terrible. And again, it's interesting because Netanyahu has come out and said, he wants to take over the rest of Gaza. Again, I want to be very clear here. I have had a mostly neutral stance up to about the last week or two about this Israel-Palestine conflict. I've tried to stay out of it as much as possible. We are now facing an absolute humanitarian crisis, and we should probably talk up and speak up about it. You want to talk about the war and everything else? That's one thing. That's a completely different conversation. But we've got a humanitarian crisis on our hands, and that cannot be ignored. That cannot be ignored. No thumbs up for me at first. I thought you were reasonable dissent. It has been clear that you too have TDS. Gray man, don't hit that like button. I don't need it. Thank you. Thank you for having that opinion. This is my show. I speak what I speak. I bring facts to the table. Everything that I say, everything that I have spouted so far, a little bit of emotional to it. Okay? This is a show. I'm here to provide some form of entertainment, but there is passion behind this. There is some passion, true feelings of what I feel about this, but everything I mention is factual. Now, I would encourage anybody watching the stream, please go out and do the fact checking yourself. But if you're going to come in my chat and you're going to provide an argument, please make sure you provide it with some kind of fact. So far, I have not seen any facts being brought up by the MAGA base. You guys got to send your best. Not sending the best right now. Neo Conacher said, I disagree and left a like. Thank you so much, Neo. I appreciate the like. Yeah. Listen, you want to argue with me? That's fine. You want to say I'm a dumbass? Say I'm a dumbass. That's fine. Your stance on what ICE is doing isn't factual, though. Zach, please provide why. See, the problem is a lot of you MAGA will say you're saying is wrong and then don't provide anything. Brian Spindle said MAGA doesn't do facts. You're 100% right. I remember there was a saying that used to go around in the MAGA circles and the conservative circles. I believe it was something about facts don't care about your feelings. What happened to that? What happened to that? Facts don't care about your feelings. Yeah, well, okay. Gray man, who would you have voted for if not for Trump? And that speaks volumes. You're saying it's your show, friend. No hate intended. FYI, I'm not MAGA. I'm just American. The problem is that more than likely you would have either voted for Trump or you ended up supporting someone who was a Trump light. That's my guess. I could be wrong. And again, I want to be very clear. When I label MAGA, there's a certain particular individuals that I would label MAGA. MAGA is not somebody who I believe just simply voted for Trump. I think there is a lot of people who are Republican their entire life, don't know any better. Quite frankly, they're normies who voted for Trump. I don't know if I would necessarily call those people MAGA. The people I would call MAGA are, for example, what were your opinions on J 6th? Was it that these people were justified in their actions? Were you somebody who cannot name any meaningful like, can you name something about Donald Trump that did wrong? Are you able to do that? Are you able to sit there and say, yeah, Trump is wrong? Have you prayed over Trump? There's certain things that kind of lend to that cult ideology that I would consider you MAGA. Now, there is a special room for those who are not MAGA on the Republican Party that I do believe have a particular issue with that. How you can be a Republican in today's day and age is beyond me. I can understand. I'm not asking for people to go become a Democrat. It's a big leap, and I understand. I get why it's difficult to vote Democrat because, again, Republicans have done a really good job at building this masculine image around being a conservative, right? Think about it. The Second Amendment, right? The nuclear family, right? God and everything, right? There's a certain bit of brainwashing that kind of occurs in the Republican Party. So I get not moving to be a Democrat. That's fine. But if you want to be, you can always vote third party or not vote at all. So voting for Trump, you're still complicit, but complicit in a different manner if you are somebody who doesn't buy into that entire cult ideology. They aren't indiscriminately targeting people. There's your facts. Okay, I'm going to play this video. I know we were going to watch this Trump video, but we tend to do this a lot. Let me go on to x.com. Let me show you a little something here. All right, what's this? Ice Penske truck. Let me show you something. All right, let's pull this up. Copy this. Doop, 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 doop. We're going to go over here. Paste and go. Take a look at this. All right, guys, remember Zach's, was it Zach? Yeah, Zach's stance. I saw your stance, Zach. All right, let's watch this video. All right, guys, here we go. Watch this video. They're just running around. There's not, hey, here's the picture. There's this. They're just randomly grabbing people at a Home Depot. So there's that. All right, let's go back here.
Very smart people. They've been going at it and their predecessors also very.
Steve said $43.3 million supporting programs to build an inclusive and capable workforce with a special emphasis on public health and climate change sectors in Egypt. All right, I'm going to see where you searched this, Steve. You better be a good source. Let's see where you copy and pasted this. Let's see. That elevates sectors critical to Egypt's economic growth. The activity will achieve this purpose with the following three results. I just pulled this up. The purpose of the USAID Egyptian Pioneers activity. GOE ministries and other government institutions at the forefront of Egypt's strategic development have greater leadership and technical capacity to develop and implement policies and practices to advance national priorities. Emerging leaders and non-GOE entities modernize their knowledge, skills, and practice on priority sectors to tackle Egypt's evolving public and private sector challenges and advance Egypt's regional and international competitiveness. Young Egyptians of high financial need gain market-relevant knowledge and skills in fields that situate them to effectively fuel Egypt's long-term inclusive economic growth. So what you saw on this, which is what Republicans tend to do time and time again, is you saw, let me see if I can find it here, supporting programs to build an inclusive and capable workforce. See, when you saw inclusive, you probably thought DEI. That's not what this is at all. Not at all. In public health and climate change sectors. I don't know where you got that from, but it certainly doesn't look like that. It seems like it's just trying to help their economic growth. So that's just what it looks like to me. All right, continue on.
Smart. They've been going at it for 35 years. It's tough. And, when those guns start going off, it's awfully tough to get them to stop. It really does. It's
31 million clean energy in Europe and Eurasia. Again, more jobs for them, helps their economy. It helps us because we take some of that energy. We take some of those jobs as well. It helps the U.S. jobs. If you have like an international company, I know, I think Siemens, for example, is one of the largest companies when it comes to wind energy. So again, if it means more Americans have to travel out to Europe or it helps Americans here, sure. Right. What about if it's a windmill? I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking, what if it's for windmills? And then all of a sudden now, guess what? Who's producing those windmills? Is it the United States? I don't know. It could happen to American workers. Our vets could use housing. Sure. All right, let's continue on.
A war that should have never happened. It would have never happened if I were president. There was no reason for it. So many people are killed.
You are not patriotic if you like ICE. America is our Constitution, and ICE violates it every day. You are 100% right, Peter.
So much cultural destruction. You look at those magnificent towers, the most beautiful.
All right, guys, we got 4 more minutes, and we're at 124 likes. Can we get to 130 before the stream ends? 130, guys. Let's reach our goal.
In the world, you know, the spires were considered the most beautiful in the world.
This douchebag probably voted for Biden. Oh, wait, the DNC told him to vote for Kamala. Hey, guess what, Dave? I voted for Trump in 2020 and voted for Kamala Harris in 2024. Try again.
They're all in a million pieces, laying on the ground, all obliterated, knocked into a million pieces. So sad. But
Daniel, yo, Vince, I'd love to debate you. I'd destroy you with Trump, with truth and facts, liar. Well, you got to tell me what you want to debate first. And then if you want, you can go in the Discord and come in there. By the way, guys, here's my socials. Forgot to mention this. If it'll pop up, I don't know if it will. Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't. I know Nightbot's been pretty weird. Let me try social. Or I'll at least do Discord. And it's probably a really dumb idea to do this, but I'll do it anyways. You can go in there and we can talk sometime. Anyways, all right, let's continue on.
Millions of people have died, and very, very much set in their ways. A lot of people were set in their ways.
She said, did you support Kamala when she had 1% of the primary of 2020? You do remember that what primary is, don't you? Democrats seem to forget about them. Yeah, no, we had we did not have a primary, but again, it was the DNC, a private organization. It's not mandated by law to have a primary. And again, to be quite frank, I don't even think that Trump had a primary, if I'm not mistaken. So again, the idea of primaries to me is not the end of the world. It's funny too, as well, when they sit there and try to use this as a means to sit there and say that somehow we are undemocratic in the way that we conduct ourselves, the Democratic Party. When again, Donald Trump literally went in to during January 6th to try to overturn the results of the election. Let's hope we have more constitutional presidential choices in 2028. Yeah. So democracy doesn't matter. The democracy, the vote is not relevant. And yes, Trump did. Did Trump have it? I forgot. I remember looking it up. I don't think it's here nor there, to be quite frank with you, but let me look it up. Trump 2024, or let me look up Republican 2024 primary. I don't remember there being one, but I didn't. Let me see. Republican 2024 primary, presidential primaries. Oh, okay, it was against Nikki Haley and Donald Trump. But Donald Trump received 76% of the vote, and Nikki Haley received 19%. Okay, cool. Yeah, they had a primary. But again, I think it's funny to me when you talk about democracy and democratic processes when Donald Trump tried to overturn those democratic processes. So spare me the outrage. Spare me the outrage.
But I think we're getting close. I mean, this was not my war. This was.
And also, again, from the Democratic National Convention standpoint, the reason why they put in Kamala Harris was because, again, she was the best candidate that by the time they would have voted for. And this is a big gripe, by the way, of Democrats with Joe Biden, is that he didn't drop out sooner. That was an issue that Democrats still to this day hold. Secondly, because it was so late, I think he dropped out in like June. Okay. There was no time to hold a primary. So the Democratic Party did what they did best, and they're like, hey, we've got to put somebody in place and get the ball rolling immediately. In fact, they did it so quickly that one of the policy positions for the Democratic Party is, if you look at their policy positions, there was, in fact, some pages that still mention Joe Biden. But the reason why it mentioned Joe Biden was, again, because they had to put in somebody extremely quickly with Joe Biden dropping out in June. And I believe Joe Biden himself mentioned he wasn't going to run in 2024, and yet he did. So again, this was an issue.
Biden's war, but the European Union has been great, as you know.
Whew. So we went through a lot of stuff. We talked through a lot of stuff. We did all that. Guys, it's been awesome, man. But we are at 2 hours, and that's usually where we do our cutoffs. We've been holding it steady, about 334 viewers. A lot of y'all are returning viewers as well. I want to appreciate all you guys. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell if you haven't already. It's never too late to do so. Also, we're going to be trying to put out more videos in the coming days. I'm going to start doing some interviews. I think one of the people that I'm going to try to line up is an attorney, an immigration attorney, and we're going to talk with him. That's my intention, at least. I want to do more content on videos so that you guys can go and check those videos out as well. I do put out frequent shorts. If you have not seen me on TikTok, please make sure you go out to TikTok and check us out there as well. We do a lot of videos on there. I do a lot of debates as well. So I appreciate you guys coming out here. We will be streaming again Wednesday next week, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then after that, it'll be Friday, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I appreciate every single one of you who liked it. I appreciate every one of you guys who donated. It means the world to me. All right. All right, guys. Y'all have a great weekend. Okay. Enjoy football. And I will see you guys